This video is brought to you by GameMaker. And if you've ever wanted to get into game development, GameMaker does this really crazy thing where it's free. Just start making and only pay when you want to release your game to the world commercially.
It's fast, it's user-friendly, and there's easy-to-follow tutorials, plus a dedicated community to help answer even my questions. How make man jump? GameMaker is a 2D game engine that's helped bring some of yours and my favorite recent experiences to life, like UFO 50, Chicory, Anton Blast, and of course, Yahtzee's own Starstruck Vagabond.
Ooh, we talking about GameMaker? I love that program, it's so easy to use. As well as Starstruck Vagabond, I also used it to make all 12 projects in my 12 games in 12 months Dev Diary challenge. And I couldn't believe how much sex I got out of that. None. I got none at all. Which I couldn't believe.
So what are you waiting for? Head on over to the GameMaker link in the description and start cracking away today, because we want to play your game.
Yeah, looking through this list, I'm seeing one of you made Armpit Fart Tycoon, and I've got several questions for you. Hello, and welcome to DevHeads, the podcast focused on the ins, outs, and goings on of game development with host experience ranging from indie, double to AAA. We're missing AAA today because she's ill, unfortunately, but indie's still here. Hello, I'm Jay, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, as always, Mikey.
Hey everybody, I guess I represent AA. A little bit of AAA. I'll dip into more today, my time with Meta. Since to compensate for Tina's absence.
Dip the toes in. And today we have a wonderful guest that we've been trying to get on for the last month, but the storm of chaos has been happening. Brendan Greene, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, dude. Can you give our listeners, before we get into our, fireside chat of what you've been up to, what you're working on, and all of that, can you give a bit of background of what you've done in the past? Because I think most people are going to know what you've done, but just for the uninitiated.
So I made the Battle Royale game mode way back in Arma in, I think, 2014, which then came into H1Z1 in the form of first Battle Royale and then King of the Kill. And then I got a chance to make my own game in Korea with Bluehole at the time, now Crafton, called PUBG, or PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Amazing. Yeah, and we're sad that Tina can't be here today. And we mentioned this briefly before we started to go live. Tina made part of her career off of working on Apex Legends and then her husband working on Warzone. So she has a lot of history with studying your work and then translating it into different mediums. But you mentioned before we went live that that's something that you're not against. You kind of like that?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I created a game mode. And in the early days, I even was talking with Bohemia just to add it as a game mode inside of Arma, like King of the Hill or Capture the Flag. It's just it's a last man standing game mode. I just kind of gamified it a bit and put a circle in. So I loved seeing Call of Duty and Battlefield, because I play a lot of Battlefield, and just seeing and even Fortnite. I mean, seeing all these other games take a game mode and run with it was really amazing to see.
Are there any other games that have used the game mode that have done anything creatively that you've admired? Because a lot of them, if you boil it down, they're very similar to your original game mode.
I think Spellbreak was interesting. I always thought a myth and magic battle royale would be cool. Something like a For Honor battle royale, something like this, or even like Kingdom Come. That could be interesting. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
I think I have a. No, all good. I think one of our cats was at the door.
Cat emergency.
Everybody, let us in. Hey, if you need to take a cat break, our audience will totally.
It's permitted. We have frequent dog break. Well, dog integration, more like with Jay's Ludo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna go through it now.
Did you say Kingdom Come? Because that's a badass idea, dude. I hadn't thought about something like that.
Well, that's just the flexibility. It's like paintball, right? It's just put the basic rules into a game and it works. Even like back in the Arma days, I had a settings file at the that you could basically set the type of map, the size of the map, the blue zone timings, all this kind of stuff. So it would work on any community made map that would be released into the Arma modding community. So that made it really flexible. That like if any new map came that we really liked, we could just drop Battle Royale on top of it, and it would work really well.
That kind of mentality makes sense given your modding background, and it is something that I'll say, like, it seems like more and more developers have started to adopt nowadays. You mentioned Battlefield earlier, and we have like Portal, which is more expanded than it used to be. It's still not maybe to the level where like it would be nice if we could make a total conversion of the latest Ubisoft thing, right? But it's still better than it used to be, and it's good that you have that mentality going into everything.
Oh no, 100%. Like I came from building games with the community, and I still want to do that, right? I mean, even with the new Project Prologue, we've had a Discord open since I think like almost November last year, where we've had a kind of a community growing there and giving us feedback on the projects we're working on. And it's super valuable to listen because ultimately they're the people that play the games.
100%.
Yeah.
Those are the people you want to. It's really difficult in game dev to get valuable testing quickly, right? Because a lot of the times you're rapidly prototyping things, and then if you're working at a studio of certain size, actually, unless you have in-house testers, it's really hard to organize and then rapidly test something at a scale that makes sense. You can't just do it with a couple people because you're not going to get valuable data.
Oh no, 100%. And even like
that,
QA
right?
and bug fixing. I mean, it's amazing. We had one like I want to say S tier bug that we just could not find a repo for. We released an update with to the community, or I think it was the first playtest we did with the Discord community. And within about a half an hour, someone had repoed the bug, videoed it, and sent it back, and we fixed the bug. So this kind of like, because gamers as well play games different to the way developers do, and the way QA does, that they're looking very specifically for certain mechanics and stuff like that, where the players just take the mechanics and try to break them, and that's really wonderful. The first playtest we did, within again about an hour and a half, someone had posted a video trying to set the cabin on fire. So like it's wonderful to see that level of interaction already from the community.
Yeah,
that's true. Not every QA team has a pyromaniac, but our community might.
Right.
Probably has a couple, right? Yeah. So we've spoken a little bit about it. Can you, for the audience sake, can you introduce what you're currently working on and your plans for that? And we can ask some specifics afterwards.
Oh, sure. So I'm in my own studio now, PlayerUnknown Productions, and it started with me trying to make a big. So I got back into gaming through the DayZ mod and sort of emergent spaces rather than maybe survival games, and the same in Arma with all like Wasteland mod and King of the Hill. It's just this emergent space where you create the gameplay yourself, and that's what I started off with this team trying to build basically 100 by 100 kilometer survival game, because I thought that would be interesting. You could have trade routes, mountains where there's certain resources, maybe a bullet press or two on the island so you can choose to trade or become a warlord. This kind of gameplay, like on a big scale. And then we did some research and found the way to do 100 by 100 kilometer. We could really do any scale, and that led me on to sort of to be more inspired and go, well, then if we can let's try doing Earth scale, and we could do that. And the key was to do it locally. So a lot of these world engines and stuff like the massive worlds, like for Microsoft Flight Sim, they stream a lot of data onto it. So if you're doing an Earth scale world, where do you store the data? And I never wanted it to be reliant on servers. So this kind of evolved into me now trying to rebuild the internet in 3D, but that's the bigger thing. But it was kind of, how do you do an Earth scale world with like millions of players, like an emergent social space at that kind of scale? And that's what like our 3-game plan is trying to solve parts of the tech challenges in sort of gamified form. So we kind of de-risk the big plan and sort of, still put out games. So the first was trying to figure out how can we do terrain locally and like generatively. And we've done that with Prologue. Game 2 is then how to do even bigger scales of terrain with massive NPC and multiplayer interaction. And then Game 3 is where we really go massive multiplayer. So it's about breaking down this, like, this is what we want to achieve and how do we try to achieve it. And I've got my CTO is the guy who he was X2K. He did the engine for Mafia Reloaded and Mafia 2 and 3. So building proprietary engines for a long time.
Got the chops.
Exactly. And like, we're doing everything open source because it has to be, because like, if you're like, the internet is, I think the internet is the metaverse, and the metaverse is the internet, and the metaverse is just the internet in 3D, and no one's really building that. Everyone's building small closed IP bubbles with a few hundred players, but the internet is a social space for millions of people in 2D, and there's no one really trying to attempt to tackle that kind of problem. How do you do that in 3D? Because, you know, we're, as someone said, I said, like, I was building a combustion engine in an age of horses, and horses are great, but they're never going to get you to the moon. And sometimes it really, you have to sort of rethink the platform. So everything we're doing, we want to be open source. Our first project on Unreal is unencrypted and moddable. We're hosting a mod jam in our studio to let the devs go nuts and see what they can create out of the tools we've provided. So it's very exciting to be creating new tech. But the bigger goals are, I hope, to create a space that's kind of fair and equitable and accessible to everyone. See, wandering
100%.
and effusive, or meandering and effusive.
No. That was actually pretty succinct
We
for
love it.
summarizing
Yeah.
3 projects at once. So here's the question that I have around that, or the discussion, I guess. That makes sense, you know, talking about the stage progression, and it gives a little bit of context to what Prologue is now. My question is, like, where does the design come in, right? And is there intended to be a design, especially with Project 3? And how do you kind of like handle that at your studio? Because when looking at the credits, it seemed like it was mostly you, and I think also not a game director, but a secondary director position. How do you guys handle that? And what does that look like in the future?
Well, I've been thinking about this for quite a while, like 6 years now. And it's given me a lot of time to sort of think out. And for the last game specifically, it's more like we want to create Minecraft survival, kind of essentially like a civilization MMO type thing with tools and systems that you can leverage to affect the space that you take over or live in or whatever. But you don't have to use them. You can just fly around the world and see what people are doing. But like, if you want to participate in the fabric of the world, then there's going to be some kind of like MMO civilization type, like, build your community out. Then you can build game modes in the place that you capture or whatever, or you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind of, that's what I think. It's a big, civilization tools, basically, like
It sounds like the key is that, or not the key, but a big component of that is the persistence and the one worldness, because everybody's in the same space. Period. Is that right, or is it?
No,
Okay.
we'll provide, it's like Minecraft. We'll provide you with one world, which is an example of what's possible with the engine that we're building. But it'll all be open, and it's more like a preset or a tutorial that if you want to just take that and copy it and make it smaller and do your own stuff, that's up to you. Like, if and it should be, it's essentially like, you can create your own web page, or you can join, the one big forum, which is our world, and create your own space within there. Or so it's trying to think of it like that. And if you look at the web when it first started, there was a lot of just flat 2D or flat websites that, they were loaded when people went there and stuff like this. And then we got into more generative websites that, were created when you loaded. And I think games need to be approaching more like that, where, especially to do the stuff at the scale we want to do, and like in social spaces at that scale, they have to be locally generated for people coherently and consistently and deterministically. And this is what the whole aim of the tech is.
It's the analogy you used of you're building a combustion engine in the age of horses and horse-drawn carts and stuff is really interesting. I think one of the most unique things about this project you're working on, or the 3 projects, is the fact that you are splitting them up into freezes to tackle individual problems. That's not something we've seen, and that's because to do something this ambitious, you have to break the mold. You have to do something different. Otherwise, you'd be working on this for, it would cost $1 billion and would do X, Y, and take X, Y, Z years. So you have to do something different. Is that a challenge internally to think about what to prioritize first?
Well, we have some really good leadership. We have Kim Nordstrom, who's ex King. We have or ex Paradox as well, and I said Laurent Gorga. We have just a really good leadership team that went away and looked and broke the big plan into 3 games, and that broke that down into, okay, what does the next year look like? And that's what we kind of do. We have an 8-week remote dev cycle where every 8 weeks we bring the whole team in and just do a planning week, and then twice a year we do events where we bring the whole team and discuss what we're doing for the next 6 months, or at the end of the year what we're doing next year, and we set ourselves milestones. And everything is in service of the greater goals, but we try to focus on what we can do in the next year and what's achievable to kind of keep people out. Our tech director said, our CTO says he doesn't believe in tech developed in a vacuum, which gave us a really nice T-shirt for the last Future event of a computer inside a vacuum cleaner. But he really believes in making a product having some kind of like tangible result from the research you're doing, because often research can get lost in a vacuum where it's just it's just endless. And we have a steering committee internally to kind of look at the projects we're doing, going, okay, that's making progress or not, or it's servicing the goal or not. But it's taken some time to get there, and we're always evolving. But yeah, it's a good system we have, and I'm very happy with the team we have.
Yeah, I guess that's another nice
thing. It feels
thing
achievable, right?
Yeah.
Well, you have 3 deliverables, so to speak, right? You have 3 projects that must be completed and shipped, and that prevents you from doing the sort of meandering, too much blue sky thinking single project, which could be hypothetically game 3 for you right now. Instead, it's like, all right, well, let's crawl, walk, run, so to speak, and let's build up to that. And each one of these has to be an experience in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
no,
like
exactly. And we take a lot of learnings as well from the games, like the way even the assets we use in game 1, we might use in game 2, because they all take part in the same kind of universe. The learnings about interaction, how players move, this kind of stuff. While we might not take the code into our own engine, we'll definitely take the learning of the UX, right?
Yeah, like that's the hardest thing for me from like when I see this from a perspective, and the thing that would scare me if I was on the project is, how do you market this, something that hasn't been done before? Like, a lot of people who are going on Steam might be thinking, well, if I'm going to pick up X game, even if it's an early access, as with Prologue, a lot of people are expecting a certain amount of what they would consider game, rather than it being this is we're building tech and you are helping us build this tech for this future project. Like, has there been difficulties in like onboarding players into that mindset?
Well, no. So our tech demo is Preface, which is free on Steam, and it's literally that. It's what's possible with the engine. Prologue is meant to be more of a game, and I've 200 and something hours in Prologue already, where I just enjoy hiking around and discovering worlds. So for me, it's not your typical game, which is a bunch of missions in a box. That's not what I love about gaming, or the worlds I want to build, which are emergent spaces. There's a bunch of systems there. They're very simple, or may appear so, but once you learn how to master them, then it becomes a lot of fun. And the way that they can interact, or allow you to interact with the world, it just gives you a new experience every time. So that's the kind of game I like. And it is slightly niche, I guess. And people do expect me to do more shooty things, but that will come in game 2. But right now, it's like, I just want to, this serves the purpose of testing the tech. We've even looked at trying to think about like co-op multiplayer in the worlds, if we can get them fully deterministic, which we're pretty much close to doing. So like, there's lots of opportunities here for, more gamey stuff. But right now it's about adding depth to the world, making sure that the generation of the worlds is really like consistent and looks like a world that you could tell stories in. Like, we don't have pathing, we don't have infrastructure. There's just a bunch of cabins in the woods right now, which is fun, but it's not. You can't really tell stories in that. You need more, of the typical game world aesthetic or features.
Yeah.
Hearing you say that makes a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Jay.
No, go for it, man. It's all good.
That makes a lot of sense. When Jay, Tina, and I were playing Prologue before this, we thought to ourselves, like, this is a really cool foundation, but like, what else can we do here aside from like hike from A to B? Hearing what you're saying about expansion, not just with the other 2 games, but considering stuff like adding multiplayer to create that sort of story generation is super valuable, is super important. You used the word emergent earlier. That's like PUBG was largely games like PUBG,
Oh no, yeah.
DayZ, Minecraft, Tarkov have brought about this trend, and it's super important.
Oh no, 100%. Like I mean, and like we already added because of the community, like we called Objective Survive and a nod to Halo. But it's just it's endless survival. There's no weather tower escape. You just got to survive in the world. And there's no cabins, a few shelters, and forageable items. And there's a free roam mode as well for just enjoying the hike, right? Because you have like infinite worlds essentially to. And actually, we released something to our Pathfinders, a sort of internal Discord testing group, which is we call it it's a deep link, but you can link people any picture on the internet, and it'll take it and generate a map from the image, and then they'll play that, and you can share the seeds and stuff. So we're really trying to open up to being more than just a single survival loop and more kind of a platform for creating game modes. As I said, we have a mod jam. There's some interesting stuff the guys have done already internally that like sets up the game in a whole new light. I look at it more like a kind of a mini platform for kind of creating game modes using this tech at the moment, rather than kind of this closed one loop of a game. Because I think there's much more possible with the end or the terrain generation tool we have.
Yeah, for sure. Like you're creating that foundation really allows you guys to springboard off whatever like catches your or the community's like attention, right? Like if one of your internal devs like creates a mod and you guys are really excited about it, but like polish it a tiny bit, pass it off to the community and have them try it, and your community is super excited about it, maybe that becomes a feature for the final project and stuff like that. And it's so
look at Peak.
Exciting.
Peak was game jam.
A game jam,
right? And it turned out to be their biggest
I only learned that
game,
recently.
right?
It's wild,
I love it. No, I mean the one of the guys did this. Our creative director Scott, he had this idea for a mod, and he talked to the game designer, and he did it, and he changed the title screen to Lucy something else, right? And just that alone was like, oh, that's great. And just what it says, I'm not going to share because I don't want to spoil it. But it was just really good. And then I played it for a bit, and it's just really interesting. Of course, it needs some tweaks and stuff, but they've already made something more interesting than just the single player game, which is just incredible. And as I said, we're releasing it unencrypted. Like we want to add more tooling so people can mod it easier. We have like a settings menu. We'll be adding more depth to that, but we want to make it like we're releasing it unencrypted, so those that can mod in Unreal can probably create a version of the game, right? I mean,
that's really cool and really inspiring, because like we speak about this a lot on the show of like different avenues to get into the industry and like to do that. And modding is a place where a lot of people get their start, right? And fall in love with this like art form, and being able to take such an ambitious project and then be like, it's unencrypted. If you have an idea, right? Like you could feasibly do it. That's such a it feels like a torch. I feel like you're like Prometheus. Maybe that's a bad example because you don't want to get chained down and get your liver. But like you're giving the flame to people, right?
Oh no, but I've always wanted that. Like, no, dog this time.
Dog.
So So I've always wanted. I even said it back in PUBG days that I always wanted to like find the next PlayerUnknown, because for like, but even as you said, like most of the biggest games in the last 10, 20 years have come from mods, from DayZ, PUBG, Dota, CSGO. I mean, these are all mod generated games, and I think there's a lot of value to creators that just want to do their own thing rather than try to follow a trend. Because if you're following a trend, you're probably too late, right? It's
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. Like a lot of the examples you just used are like genre defining games. Like they're taking something that doesn't exist and being like, this would be cool. And that's really cool. And it feels like you're laying a foundation to allow people to potentially do that within, like you said, the internet is the metaverse, vice versa. Like you're giving an arena to allow for that creativity to like you said, maybe find the next player unknown, find the next creative who's going to do an interesting mode or something.
Right. I mean, sorry, I'm just my computer
sorry.
is low battery, and the plug is where the fuck is this shit? Sorry,
It's an adventure.
under
It's
my
all right.
desk. Sorry, chat.
Someone in the
They're all
chat
good.
mentions Microsoft Flight Simulator doing something like, as you described, Brendan, about using Bing Maps to generate terrain, which is a really cool idea. My best memory, talking about emergent gameplay in Minecraft, I remember my friends and I, we got a map of the world in Minecraft. And we started in, and it was, I mean, obviously it was scaled down, but it was fun because I think we started the game and we just made up a mission for ourselves, where we said, all right, we're going to try to get back home. We were all from New Jersey. And first we had to be cartographers and we had to figure out where we were in the world. And it turned out we were in like Chihuahua Bay, like in the Southwest, like near Mexico and California. And we thought, oh, well, let's go to hell, because you go 10 paces faster when you're in hell, and we'll just kind of point ourselves northeast. But we overshot it and we wound up in Sicily. So then we had to like come back, and then we wound up North Carolina, and then we went up north on foot, not through hell, to get to Jersey back home. That kind of storytelling just happened because somebody gave us the tools to do exactly what you're describing, right? To sort of invent our own little mission. And that's the start of modding, right? Some idea using tools somebody else made, basically.
That keeps people going, right? As well. Those like ludic play moments, the things that you're creating with your friends are foundational gaming memories that you will like remember forever and make you want to come back and keep playing, right? With those people and making those memories. And I think one of the things with your projects, Brennan, is I think multiplayer is going to be such an
there we go. Cat cam.
Yeah, I have to bring her back upstairs. I'm sorry, 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, you're good.
But I'll be back. Oh.
Wait,
we can
the
see
evolution
your blur.
of the blurred cabin it's growing. He's climbed into the ceiling.
We can still hear you too. Cool.
He can still hear me, so I'll continue. The thing is like, I think multiplayer is going to be such an integral addition to these projects, because when you think about some of the interesting points at the moment, which are scale and the width of the game and like how big it is and how that can be scaled depending. Once you add, I think, let's just say even just one multiplayer friend into that environment. Let's say like when we played the other day, Mikey, you were playing and I was watching, but let's say that I was playing as well. There would be something with that where if we are landed in completely different locations, right? And part of the goal, we have a central goal, which is, get to the tower or whatever. But the other goal is, I want to find you, right? Like, where are you? And having to do that communication is really important, whether you're doing that for a Discord call or in my way that I would like to do it through in-game, right? Like, you have to go to cabins to find phones or radios and like tune it to the correct frequency to like try and communicate with people. And maybe hearing people that aren't your friends on radios and having that communication in that moment. Like the multiplayer aspect, like just explodes the sandbox and the possibilities. Like one emergent system that could create 3 different interactions with a single player can explode and create an infinite amount when you add more people to it. Like a flare for one. That
a flashbang. I remember when we first mentioned flashbangs to the community in PUBG. Someone said, "Oh, I can't wait to throw a flashbang at someone driving a car," and they crashed and they killed themselves. It took about a year and a half until I saw a clip of someone throwing a flashbang at the car, and it went off the road into a tree, and the person killed themselves. So it was really. It was that kind of.
Those are super memorable, right? Like those moments are even especially
like one of my
for them.
One of my formative memories in gaming was from the DayZ mod, where I was part of a squad or a group that we finally got enough things to get the one chopper on the island. get it off the island, and we were waiting in a clearing in bushes because people would hear the chopper coming. So like just getting on the chopper and escaping and lifting off was just like, I can still remember it, right? It's just, it's so, that kind of experience you don't get in many games. Even, you know, it's, there's very few games I play because of that, because that's the kind of game I love.
Yeah, for sure. And not a lot of them exist. And you said something really interesting there that I've got a question on, which is vehicles and just traversal in general. Because there's a lot of emergent systems and adversity within the hiking gameplay itself, right? But there's also the thing of like, you have such a large world and such a large or have the ability to have like a planet scale world. Is there going to be plans to eventually, in whatever game, have modes of transport across the world? Because what's the use of having something so large?
Yeah. You don't need so we did a hackathon last Christmas, where we have the Earth scale world, but then we have a browser based globe which shows you the world, and you can click anywhere on the globe and it'll bring you there in the game. And this is my idea with the travel, is that, well, it'll be like a web page or an index showing you all the cool indie experiences on this planet. And you can click on one of them. It'll just take your character there from wherever you want in the world. If you want to participate in the fabric of the world, I guess, then I think we probably will have to have some, you know, transport options for you, being either flight. But I don't want getting around the world to be that difficult, right? I mean, I want you to be able to explore and create with relative ease.
Yeah, so you're thinking more, just so we're on the same page, you're thinking more of like, let's say in some region of the world, you know, there's a bunch of people who have set up rival camps on either side, and there's like a mini war going on, and you want to be a part of it. You can just travel, like instantly travel adjacent to it, and then try and find your way into what's happening or something.
Probably not, because if you're in a war between two rival communities, you probably need to be part of the community to be part of the war. Which means, you know, either, you know, join the community like that, just traveling there and join the community and doing something to be useful. But yeah, I mean, I think if we're like Reddit the Place, if you've seen that, which is that wonderful just pixel. So like you can go and just watch that. And just see the evolution of the art or the image. And I think it should be the same within these worlds, where you can watch what's happening or participate. It's really up to you. But how those systems will come together and how those will work, I'm not sure yet, because that's game 3 and we've got a long way to go till there. But I have a general idea of like what I'd want to enable. So it's a good starting point, I think.
Yeah. Like how could
that would be
players make that change?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's where I guess to call back to my earlier question, that's where the design kind of comes in, right? Where like you could create situations where, I don't know, players are able to get at each other too easily, and you don't have enough scarcity to have meaningfulness to death or combat or owning stuff. And one way to do that is vehicles. One thing that popped into my head, Jay, when you were talking about that, is trying to create like navigable terrain that's fun to navigate on foot, but also in a Jeep, but also in an ATV, and also as a helicopter. And that's, just imagining trying to be in a helicopter and look down and make sure that it doesn't look like there's a bunch of pop-in, or that doesn't look too low detail, and the terrain looks distinct enough to navigate. It's a bit of a can of worms. So it's good to push this back a little bit for Project 3.
Well, no, so we're opening that can of worms in Prologue, because in the early access roadmap, we've said that we want to do pathing and infrastructure. So that means finding logical paths within these generated worlds. We already have pathfinding within the game, so we know that we can pathfind within the world that's generated. So now it's just a case of, can we do proper pathing, proper like power lines, this kind of stuff that kind of makes sense. We're already trying to expand the points of interest from being single cabins to being more like 2-3 structures in a so that it's not just plopped down assets. It's more that it feels like a real world. So we're trying to tackle this already. There's lots of good research on this for pathing. Slime mold, if you can believe, is very useful for finding the most common or the most efficient path between two sources of food. And that's translated very well into pathing for city planning and stuff like this. So there's lots of research on this kind of, here's a world, figure out paths, figure out logical infrastructure points. So the research has been done. It's just finding it and applying it to what we're doing.
That's really cool. Reminds me of I always get the name wrong of these. I think they're like destiny paths. It's where, like, say you're in a park and you see a pavemented path through, but then the grass has been eaten away because people have just taken a beeline to where they need to go. That is where the paths should be, because that's where people want to walk. And like mold is very efficient at doing that, because it's finding the path of least resistance. I also see on your roadmap as well, because this is something I'm interested to get into, is just like, we've got these really awesome plans for like the free game setup, but I'm really interested into like the micro and the roadmap for Prologue, and like what we're gonna add here, because I think that's where you guys can really hook a lot of because obviously you've got your community who's super invested in the Discord and doing stuff, and it's like, but also thinking of it cynically in a game dev sense, there also has to be ways to get more people invested, because that's how we maintain funding and X, Y, and Z. And
yes,
blah, blah, blah.
I have salaries to pay and stuff.
Exactly, right? So it's just a reality of it. And like looking at your roadmap here, there's lots of stuff that interests me. One of them was expanding the rivers into like living systems. And stuff like that, like adding that realism, so then people could like potentially follow them to other sources of water, which would be really interesting.
Yeah,
like,
so right now we've so this is the whole aim. We're like, we've got a pretty like sorry, you can't see a dog now.
Hello.
New animal.
Wait, I'll get
hello.
Let's saturate the screen with dogs. There you go.
Let's get dogs.
Oh, so docile.
No, nice. No, so we like the game world right now, as beautiful as it is, it still needs a lot of work to, like, the river system until like about a month ago was really rocky at the edge, because it was more a programmer river than a designer river or an artist river. So now we've added nice river banks to the back. The background image on the roadmap image actually is some of the new rivers. But we want to add that, because we can use machine learning is really good at like pattern recognition, and we're using it to generate the height map, which is the black and white image that generates the terrain.
Yes.
And then we're also looking at like European rivers. Sorry. Oh God, what does he want? Oh, he's a big dog. And he wants to climb on top of me.
Also wants to sit on the lap.
I don't know why he just. Yeah, there we go. Now,
how about you down as well?
Oh, now, listen. What's up? Yeah. Sorry. Now we're on. No. So the ML is really good for pattern recognition. Nature is just full of patterns, and if you keep the domain or what it's trained on very limited, and if what you're asking for is from that very specific domain, it's very good and efficient at generating stuff. So we have basically a bunch of river schematics, the black and white image where it tells where the ML agent where the water is, and then it just generates the height map from that. So we have it's currently artist generated splines in Blender, just curvy images, but we also then traced a bunch of real world rivers. But we have the vector river database for the European river network. So we can take an agent and train it on what rivers look like, and then we can get it to generate a river. And then it already knows how to build terrain around that. And then it just gives you a much more realistic world. So you have, as I said, like it starts at like mossy or boggy kind of areas that flows into a small river, gets into a big delta. So it has that whole river system, which is super exciting.
It's similar to mold, right? Like rivers have ways they navigate through environments and like carve out the landscape. And like you can... just by the way a river has moved through an environment, you can basically tell its history. So it's really cool that you're taking actual river data and like translating that into how you're doing it, rather than, like you said, just at the moment using like splines in Blender and stuff like that. It's really, really cool. Another one is
And it's really cool for one really
No, it's all
nice
good.
benefit of this tech is that it enables, like, we've got a small team of artists of like 5 or 6 artists that can kind of, and then some technical artists on top, and they can use this to like, they can guide how the world looks, how the rivers are shaped, this kind of stuff, and then the hassle of building the world is not there anymore. It's just generated every time you press play, and we've seen this. We posted like what the game looked like when we first made it, like January last year, to what it's done now, and it was like an empty plane of just it being the terrain generation to this really dense and rich world now, and it is just the start, right? I mean, we still have to balance out the biomes. We have a tree update that makes the beach forests look far nicer and much more realistic. So there's all this like, and it allows this small team of artists just to keep expanding the world and not just be having to focus on one small part of it and then expanding as is common when you're building this kind of scale of world.
100%. Yeah, you want to have those systems there, so like you said, you can realistically, or to as realistic to the ability of these systems, generate a world that makes sense within and that being with rivers, with paths, with like the foliage and stuff like that. And like the thing I'm interested in, and I'm kind of going through your roadmap and picking out the things that are like juicy to me. I think one of them is like cabin types and settlements. Like we've got like the natural generation of how things are done through nature, which I think is really fascinating how you're doing that. How do you plan to do that for something like man-made?
Well, we already have, like, Houdini's a great tool. So Houdini, we have a bunch of like cabin variation coming. So it's not just going to all look the same internally. So each cabin will have various states as well, from destroyed to sort of brand new. So there'll be variation there. But then the bigger areas, it's more, again, these are not that difficult, especially when we're doing maybe 5-6 buildings, this kind of stuff. It's not cities yet. It's not like that kind of scale. Settlements, I don't know how big we can make them, but if we can do pathing well, then we can find crossroads and paths and place stuff around those. So these are all kind of system, like most of the stuff we do we're building a Prologue in Unreal. We use ML to generate the height map, but everything else is PCG. Well, our own version of PCG called PCG++, because we need it to be deterministic. So like it's standard procedural generation tools for building the environment. And I think we can, and because we can do the world in real time, I think there's ways that we can leverage current methods to do small settlements and sort of small like area placements quite easily, right? We can adapt them quite easily, I should say. Yes, I know.
Yeah, so with a lot of this, the world environment stuff is fascinating. I think the stuff that that one part of an audience would be really interested in that, right? Like, how is this world being made? What's the scale? How realistic is it? And part of that is, you've got plans to do new and dynamic weather types and stuff like that, but that lends itself nicely to the survival aspects as well. What are some of the plans you guys have for how you're going to make it more dynamic in the sense of like how you survive in the wilderness?
Well, we have it's Project Treehouse, which is make the construction system suitable enough that I can build tree houses in the game. So right now we're looking at how do you expand that construction in a kind of a vein of Valheim, that kind of free build opportunity. So it's like we want you to be able to build your own shelter, because right now even there's the Just Survive, or the not Just Survive, the Objective Survive mode. The starter cabin, there's no way to really repair it. So once the roof blows off, you're kind of effed. So we want to kind of add the ability for you to board up your own cabin or create your own cabin to live in, should you want to, right? Like that. It's but it's more, again, it's once we come out of early access, I want, if the world is rich and deep enough, we have a plan to add more mission-based stuff where, you reach the weather tower, then you have to go back and turn on a bunch of electrical transformers to get a message, more kind of traditional gamey stuff, because we're building this within a universe and a story, and there's a lore to the game. So it's not just all craziness. But I want to kind of ease into that slowly. We have a long time to tell these stories over, 3 games. So yeah, step by step. But it's about like, I mean, for survival, there's the foraging system, which is getting overhauled, the cooking system, which we need to redo because it's a bit broken right now. But it's all these abilities to create your own cozy little world, basically, should you want. Because we got that early on in testing where people were posting videos of their cabins and saying, I just want to live here. And they just, they go in after work and just sit by the fire. We want to add reading by the fire because why not, right? Because it just
That's
gives
fun.
people an escape where there's just rain in the background and not much else.
Yeah, that's really cool. Like you were just speaking on some of the systems. One that really interests me, it's because of the project I'm working on that I cannot speak to because I have not announced it to the community
NDAs,
yet.
yay!
But and this will just give a little hint to the audience, I guess. But it says you want to make improvements to navigation and map interaction and marking. I'd love to hear some of your plans for that if you can, because that stuff interests me a lot.
Well, we've got multiple emails. We got an email from a scout marine sniper. We got an email from a survivalist all about like how we could improve map marking. So the aim is to make it more orienteering, right? Like being able to plot chart direction or mark directions where you think on the map. This kind of idea that like we already have some prototyping and testing, but it's just to add like having the compass on the map, this kind of level of interaction that you would expect to be able to do in a game that's all about pathfinding.
Yeah, it's because that's such an interesting aspect to a game that takes place in a world like this is just the idea of navigation full stop. Like how do you use landmarks and the environment around you to properly chart where you are on a map, and then trying to find in what direction to go. There's lots of like complex like individual player driven knowledge thought processes there that are super unique to them, and I think it's not a lot of games do this, and I think it's something you guys could really lead into.
So we had to put a big N at the top of the map because most people or most players don't know that north is up on a map. So like we're learning a lot about how much knowledge they have about reading a map or even using a compass or like knowing the relationship between them. But it is like we've seen a lot of comments where people are really enjoying the challenge of like, I have to learn this. One person like, how do I read a map? And then someone just sent them a link to Google because like these are all learnable things. This is not a difficult thing to get and it is about identifying what the map looks like and being able to translate in your head to what the terrain looks like. Thankfully, I used to do orienteering as a kid, so I kind of
me too.
I grew up with maps, right? So I like finding my way and I know where I am now, right? Great, and off I go. But and it's fun at the end when I get the final map and seeing if I actually tracked to where I went. Right, because now we have even if you die, it gives you a detailed map of your position, which a lot of people like. I saw one guy he got within about 200 meters of the weather tower and about 50 meters of the cabin and died, and you can just see his red like just stop just before cabin, just before he would have been saved. It was
oh my god,
heartbreaking but funny.
That's a really solid piece that I think will integrate well with the multiplayer aspect. I'm trying to think of like an analog or another game that has orienteering. The closest I can think of right now, at least, is Arma, where a lot of the game is just about getting from A to B before you even like fire a single shot. You mentioned Wasteland before, Brendan. Did you ever play any Stasi, the other Arma 3 mod?
Oh, Stasi! I remember seeing it. I don't think I played it. I remember seeing it for sure.
I just got into it recently and was playing with some friends on Discord, and we were like talking to each other like, okay, you got to go here. No, you've gone too far. You make a left at that road. And another friend joined and he said, does this game have orienteering in it? That's interesting because that's not something you usually expect. And when you integrate multiplayer, it becomes a lot easier for someone who doesn't know how to orient themselves well because somebody kind of elects to be the explainer. And then also you make it I guess like also a little bit easier in general, right? Because you have multiple people trying to solve the puzzle instead of one person solving the puzzle. Because that's what orienteering can kind of be, right? Is the puzzle of where am I?
Yeah, it is,
100%.
right? And it's super satisfying to actually like overcome that, especially if you do it with friends, right? So like going back to adding multiplayer is just like having those moments is really satisfying, but when you overcome those puzzles with friends, and maybe the puzzle is finding someone, right, and you're both trying to convene at a specific point, there's such a level of like, we did this and we did this together, and our reward is that we are together. Like, creating those memories is like super valuable.
I'm smiling because I'm thinking of like early DayZ playing and trying to friend you got your can of beans, you got your Makarov, and you're trying to like read the Cyrillic on a sign in like an anglicized way. Like, I'm in Shevchenko or whatever. And then you go, okay, I don't know where that is, but I'm going to run on the beach and the ocean's on my right. So you run and the ocean's on your left, and maybe we'll see each other. And that's as much as you could do in that game. So yeah, that true kind of emergence.
Still satisfying,
I'm
right?
really excited to see the multiplayer
So
component.
much.
And what you're saying, by the way, about the terrain is also a great idea. Because kind of like the more landmarks, the more detail, the better. Not just in an aesthetic sense, but in a design sense, right? Of like, how am I going to get people to know where they're going?
No, exactly. And even when it comes down to now the population of the world, I'm finding maybe there's a few too many logs on the ground or a few too many rocks. You know, we're trying to find that nice, ideal, just auto mantle height that you can just run through the forest relatively easy. So
Mantling,
I think it's up to 65 millimeter or centimeters at the moment that you can sort of walk over easily. We just passed a update today which shrinks or lowers the rocks a little bit, so you're not so tripped up. But there's lots of, like, we have the world. We really wanted to push how rich we made the world, and now we can edit a little bit and pull it back and make it more tuned. This week, I know alone, since we released on early access, the team have been focused on mainly performance. I've seen a lot of performance updates, but they've been really they've taken all the feedback we've had. We pushed out like 2 hot fixes already to the early access build. So yeah, it's been super good.
And that's normal, right? Like you never no game really survives performance-wise or optimization-wise until it's actually out in the wild and you have every single type of machine on there. And it's good that you guys are getting ahead of it, because I also see in the roadmap you want to do Steam Deck integration, or excuse me, Steam Deck support.
Yeah, we have it already running on Steam Deck. It runs, but not very well, but it does run there. It's one of our aims. We have the Steam Deck in the office, so one of the guys. It also runs well on Linux through Proton, I believe. It runs better than Windows, apparently.
Thanks, Linux.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All Linux people in the chat got very excited. Maybe they'll chime in.
Yes.
Well, I see you've got, there's a little bit of stuff I want to talk about with the gameplay and survival, but I've just seen it and I'm intrigued. What type of Twitch integration stuff are you thinking about?
Oh, I mean, we have this game settings menu, which is essentially the cheat menu, just with a slap of UI paint on top. But we want to, because all these settings are exposed, we thought, well, since Prologue is kind of a nice game to play and chat and not have too much stress about people trying to kill you, then maybe we can allow some level of interaction from chat where they can change the weather, spawn you some items, this kind of stuff to just give you more emergent gameplay. And also we just figured out, well, I always thought, wouldn't it be good for an event to have 16 streamers, for example, play either the same map or a different map and try to survive, or the same map and try to reach the weather tower first. And that requires the weather to be deterministic, loot to be deterministic, everyone to have the same shot at it. But then it ends up being alone, essentially, in the form of a game. Because, you can just ramp up the weather at the end if you want and see how long people can survive for. But it's all about everything being deterministic. I know now the weather is deterministic, but I'm not sure about the loot yet. But we're getting there slowly but surely.
Early access, baby. That's what it's about, It's really.
Well, you'd be surprised though, because
really cool stuff.
Because most people look at early access now as people just releasing a full game. Like, it's essentially like a Go Master, and you're releasing it for some QA passes with the community, and then not much is done early. We're really trying to do it as early access was intended, which is release something relatively early and then get community feedback and support and bring it to full release.
It's tough to manage those expectations.
It is, yeah.
Like, people expect full games. I mean, you've seen so many early access or open beta that are full games, essentially.
Like Valheim,
they're giving you a chunk.
Right? You play Valheim early access, you're like, oh, wow, like, this is just a game. You just haven't done all the zones yet. and maybe you want some feedback. But it's true, and that's a value to early access. You'll even hear people poo-poo it a little bit and say like, "Oh, early access, it's too risky. I'm not going to touch it." But it's pretty important because it makes games like this a reality. And obviously, I mean, we could harp on it all day, and it's for good reason. Like the feedback really does help. It's integral. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the game that it should be. So you have to get that early input.
What have been some of
100%.
the biggest points of feedback you've gotten that have been super valuable for the team?
And for people who are listening, it's only been a week that Prologue Go Way Back's been there, I think. Yeah. So.
Well, no, but we've had community feedback since most of this year, because we've had our Discord open and doing we did closed play tests, and then we had the open beta running since August. So we've had this, the reason we did the open beta was because of the early feedback of people wanting to experience the world in more ways than just the survival loop. So we decided, okay, we have the cheat menu, paint of UI, we can make a game settings menu, and then you have game set up how you want. And then because it was moddable and open, the idea for the survival loop and the free roam mode just came sort of organically from that. So the feedback so far, we've seen some. Again, it's just about how the world is interactable and obvious stuff which we know we're trying to fix. Like a lot of the suggestions, we have it on our list or in a backlog, which is make more containable or containers accepting of rain, for example. This kind of stuff that why doesn't the faucet work? This kind of just obvious stuff that you would expect to be in the game, but isn't quite yet because we need some more time.
Yeah, and also a lot of those interactions make sense in the space of a survival game when those things would be important. But in a lot of games, you don't really expect the sync to work in a meaningful way in most games you go in, right? If you see a sync in certain games, but in here, it makes
but if
sense,
you have
right?
no way to collect water, and the only water you see is the
then
sink,
you really want
river.
that sink.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you're like, why the hell isn't the sink working?
And then you're really drawn out, right? Of why isn't this thing working? And obviously it's because it takes time to implement those things. But it can also be as maybe the cabin is out of its water source, right? So, but then you have to add specific sound effects and signifiers for the tap is dry, right? It's squeaking when you turn the faucet XYZ. So, it's still a lot of work.
That's not a bad idea. But then once we have infrastructure and pathing and stuff, then it would make sense that the cabins have water, because then you can kind of see there's the logical infrastructure there.
Yeah,
you could do a Zomboid style, right? Where at a certain point the water gets shut off, the power gets shut off, and then you have this whole shift in whatever you need to do or whatever is available to you, rather. Yeah.
So,
and I know we mentioned this a lot, but it's worth repeating. This would be a good game dev t-shirt. The suggestions and feedback are always welcome, but whatever it is, the thing that you want to be in a game, any game, it's probably been thought of already by the team. It's just somewhere on a backlog. It's not to say everything will be, but it often happens where we want the same stuff that you guys want. It's just a matter of there hasn't been the time. And the sync, I think, sounds
optimization comes first, right? In the first week of releasing early access.
No, exactly.
If we have 7 ways to get water, but we only have the time for 5, and then 6 and 7 will come later. It's something that I've...
And that's what we're doing. We're trying to push, and even our elite technical game designer, he said, do you want to see things pushed out more polished or more, janky? And I was like, put them out janky. Get them out early, get them out in their basic form, minimal viable product, and see how people interact with it, see how they play with it. Because even in those early stages, you get super valuable feedback about the user experience.
Yeah, it's... I hate to compare players to moss, and
go on
and stuff, but the whole path of least resistance and how is this fungus interacting with its environment? Players are like fungus in the sense of when you put them in that environment, you'll get data on what they're interacting with and what the majority of your players encounter, what the problems they encounter, what they enjoy, stuff like that. So it's you're just, no offense, chat, I'm also a player of games. I do play video games.
We're all moss. We're all moss. In the
deep down, we're all just
resistance.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. And speaking of path of least resistance, one of the things you guys want to do is add full climbing and like gear for like vertical
Yep.
traversal. That's a challenge, right? Like that's a lot of work.
Well, we already have like climbing up the cliffs, so you can kind of do it. It is a little janky, but you can get up there. But we do want to add more. I look at it again like Daisy or even Rust. Like, think about ladders in Daisy. They weren't animated the best at the start. Same in Rust. You just up and down the ladder. I think as long as the functionality is there, then it doesn't have to be super polished. And that's what we're looking to first. How do we just put in like crampons that allow you to climb up cliff faces, this kind of stuff, maybe some skill tests of hit this button in this amount of time, these kind of just simple game mechanics, and not try to make it super realistic. It's more about just the experience, right? Rather than trying to make it the next best climbing game.
Yeah, it's like you said, right? You want to throw stuff in there. It's okay to be janky because it's not just because it's early access, because that's kind of what you need to do to create the foundation that you want to create, right? Like throw stuff in, see how it develops, see how it plays, and make the animation later. The important thing is that the player can get up, right? Yeah.
And actually, the great thing about the way we're building the worlds is that it allows us to focus as a team on the gameplay and the fun rather than focus on building the world. The world is built for you. It improves iteratively, but we can focus on the game loops and the systems that inhabit the world. And that allows you to focus on the fun a lot earlier.
Yeah. There's one thing as well. It's actually below the climbing. When you're talking about adding the climbing in a way that there's some simple skill checks in whatever way that would look like, I'm interested to hear your opinion.
And just shout out to my dev team. If they have thought of other reasons or other ways to do this, I apologize, but this is just in my head. This kind of would make sense.
Yeah. And like there are ways to do that in a simple way, and that's but add a little bit of tension to like a failure state to that specific interaction. But like, how complex do you take those things? Because in your gameplay and survival, you've got evolved electrical systems with new components and repair mechanics. Like, how complex do you make that? Because the orienteering is a thing that you might have to go look up how to do these things. Like, do you envision the electrical systems being as like realistic or a little bit more gamified?
Call up your electrical engineer friend. Hey man, you want to come play something?
How do I fix this?
Baratron is like that.
No,
you guys have played
I don't think it's going to look like that. I just want to see how gamified things.
No, we want to keep it pretty gamified. We want it to make sense logically. Like, this is how it would work in the real world, but in a pretty gamified manner, right? Like it's we don't want to make it super complex.
Saying they can figure it
out. Exactly, like.
Okay.
Pretty much, it should be just like a fuse goes in the fuse box. If the fuse is black, it's probably burnt. This kind of level of you don't need to like hand look at the fuses like in Tarkov and see if they're blowing or not. This kind of
Oh god. Okay,
is my mic making noise? By the way, I just see it flashing green all the time.
Oh, I haven't heard too. No, it's that. I think that's a Discord glitch. We're not hearing you except for when you speak, and I think I'm getting the same issue.
So it just did it there, heard nothing. So it's you're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a big one. Okay, and this could completely change the landscape. Literally, expand the construction to give players freedom to construct whatever they imagine using found materials with no limits on creativity. That's a big bubble. Like,
yes,
that's big.
As I said, tree houses. Like, I want to build a tree house. So this is the aim of the possibilities with the construction system. Like, we don't really want to bring physics into the equation too much. We will when it makes sense, but really we should just want to give you freedom. And with especially in free roam or even a creative mode, you should be able to spawn as many planks as you want and build whatever you want, right? I mean, it should be up to you. But we have to test some performance. I've already built steps all the way around one of those massive big rocks so I could get onto the top of it.
Ooh.
And I think I must have used a few hundred planks and it still seemed to perform well. So that was fun. But yeah, we have to test some performance impacts on the game, but we want to give you as much freedom as possible.
Yeah, like, it's such a can of worms though, because there's the aspect of, okay, well, Treehouse is a great example. I don't know of many games that I've been able to build tree houses in, which is like, that's really fun. Apart from
especially when the tree is just an effect.
Yeah,
It's not
it's
really
like,
geometry. So like,
how
will
do
it?
you do that? And like, also, trees in general are not an issue, but
Then how do
like
you lob
part of the
that?
complex.
Like,
Exactly. There's a lot so
yes,
that goes into it, because I think a lot of players might think, well, yeah, I just want to build a little cabin. I just want to build X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, well, now you need the terrain to be able to build that on, be that a tree or just the ground. There has to be space for you to build something. So now, like, do you add systems to fell trees, to like terraform the environment, like move rocks and stuff like that? It's like it balloons to like.
It's an
What do you need?
appropriately complex design North Star to say I want to build a treehouse
Oh yeah,
because
100%.
all the layers are there. Yeah.
that's what I mean. I
That's level.
intuitively know how to really make it tough for my dev team. But no, I
Yeah.
think it solved a lot of the issues that we'd have.
Mhm.
And it would be fun for the player. So we'll see how far we get along the process of getting it to a treehouse. But for now, it'll just be as freeform building as we can make it. As I said, we also want to allow cabins to be burnt down. Like I want the forest to burn down at some stage,
Yeah.
or be that to be possible. It should be very hard to do. I think very certain conditions are absolutely very difficult. But I'd like to see that happen. But again, lots of technical questions there that I don't think the team want to answer right now.
Well, this is just how dev works, and Mikey spoke about this. It's a priority list. There are things that in the moment take priority within specific sprints and stuff like that. This is our goal, and like maybe, like you said, mods and stuff like that to see if this works, like an idea works, and then that becomes a goal like 6 months down the line, next, depending. But like some things just take priority. Like, what are some of the big priorities for you and your team right now that you wanna get in?
Well, as I said, the cabins are pretty important to us in creating sort of more interesting points of interest. The depth and sort of the feel to the world is quite important. We haven't spent a lot of time apart from getting the tiles in, and now we want to tweak them a little bit and get the density nice. We have a bunch of like lighting updates that we want to do, because right now there's a difference between like epic and high and then every other setting, because one uses lumen and one doesn't. And then you essentially have to have two different settings for your lighting, or else they just look fucky if you just will use one set of settings. So there's all these like things we're discovering along the way, but like the lighting, it's getting nice now, and sort of finishing off the weather effects, because there's still a little bit of unevenness of how they switch and stuff like that. There's a bunch of ghosting that we want to sort of get rid of. So and also like one of the biggest things for me is getting the long distance like billboards or LODs in place. So when you get to a high point, it's just infinite forest rather than the LODs fading out. You should be able to see the forest all the way to the weather tower, and this kind of. And that's not that hard. We're just figuring out the best way to do it. There's a few options we have.
Yeah, and for the listeners, billboarding is I'm sure a lot of the listeners will know what LODs are, level of detail models, which is where the quality of a model based on distance gets reduced, so that we're not rendering as many polygons at certain distances. Billboarding is a different way of doing that at very far distances, which is the instance of effectively a flat plane that is really always facing the player. So regardless of what direction you're looking, a tree sprite will bend itself to. I was playing Saints of Blake Manor recently, and all of their characters are billboarded, and they're always like, these 2D sprites are always facing the person. So that's a way you're hoping to counter that distance fall off, is by billboarding those far away.
I think that's one of the options. We do have some other like terrain painting and other ideas to kind of fill out, because again, you never reach that point, so it never really has to be that detailed. But it's just to give the sense that you're in this massive world. But also, it also brings in the challenge that, like in the map editor, you can build an island essentially. But because of the way it's set up, then everything beyond the 8x8 square that's water is suddenly mountain. So we have to kind of figure out, how do you just extend it to be just either ocean or continuous forest? So then you can build islands, or yeah.
Oh, there's so many like tiny like engineer problems, not problems, like issues that need to be solved, rather than like, because there's like a design aspect where it's like, what can you add to create more emergent systems, create more ludic play moments, and then how do you make, through engineering, make those things more seamless? And like those two challenges colliding, like the culture at your studio must be extremely interesting. There must be a lot of back and forth.
No, it's great. I mean, we have like it's a split between like 30 people working on the game, and that's split between artists and tech tech artists and designers, technical designers, and then we have 30 people working on the engine, and they're essentially engineers from rendering to core engine engineers, and then we have 5 scientists. We have like 2 astrophysicists and a bunch of mathematicians, and awesome. It's a really interesting interaction with the team because you've got like scientists talking to artists about the best way to do certain things, and it leads to really nice sparks of inspiration. So it's a really fun environment.
Could you talk a little more about those interactions? I'm actually very curious. Like, what are some problems the scientists and the artists have solved together, or what's some of the input of the mathematician that they have on the project? As much as you,
I would need you to get them on the podcast and ask them, because I'm not involved that closely in the day to day.
So unique.
But I'm sure they'd be happy. Yeah, I'm sure they'd be happy to talk about it, because I like Noel, our lead scientist. He was doing work on black holes before he came and joined us. But he's basically, he came up with the idea of doing, or the tech for building terrains locally in real time, which is, it's a huge get for us, because it allows us to do this kind of world at scale.
That's such an interesting way of doing things, because we spoke about it earlier about like, how do people get into the industry? How do people find their way in? And I think one of the most fascinating things about game dev is because the disciplines are so split, like over a wide spectrum, people have such a unique way of thinking about things. And I'm sure, like, for you, Brennan, there are things where you think about things differently because of your modding background, rather than like if you worked as an artist in the industry for 5 years. Like, the way you tackle a problem is very different to like an artist or like a scientist. The fact that they developed this system in such a unique way probably has a lot to do with their experience in a different field, and I think that's fascinating.
No, exactly. For example, like our scientists working with our artists, or especially the technical artists, and figuring out how to best approach doing ML for rivers, this kind of stuff. We have like one of our scientists, Joey. He's amazing, and he's working on a new model for the terrain generation, so it gives more cliffy cliffs. So it gives more depth and height to the world. So hopefully we'll be testing that soon with the community. But it's seeing this kind of and that gives feedback then to the artists, who can change the PCG to sort of more to give sort of more scenic worlds, let's put it that way. But I mean, I think they'd love to come on and chat about the work they've been doing, because I want them to share it.
It's fascinating, right? And that's why it's so valuable that you guys have got such an open development cycle, not just with a community, but like coming on like shows like this, just to openly talk about it and talk about the struggles, right? And like, these are the things that we're struggling to work on, and like what we're putting our energy towards, because I think that's how you develop people who are invested in this kind of like true form of early access, which is, it's early development. You're here to see and help push what the product's going to become. That's how you gear people more towards that, is just by being open. And I like it. It's just super, super valuable.
Well, you've got to build a community early. You can't just rely on releasing into early access and then hoping to build a community from there. Even before you release into early access, you should be, working with a group of players that really get what you're doing, because you have to have at least some players that like what you're doing, right? I mean, I think it's, even with Battle Royale, when I released it to the community, I could see people enjoyed it, and that sort of, it made me want to work harder on it. And it's the same with this. Early on, we saw people that were putting in a lot of hours into the game. Even before we released into early access, one guy said, I'm not going to spend my whole day playing this game and then also 661 minutes later, he played like 11 hours of the game, which, you know, maybe we should have the Battlefield thing of like, go outside, please, you know, touch some real grass instead of the grass in the game.
Yeah, this isn't real grass. Go find some real grass.
Well, I think it is like one of the things that I've thought about a lot, which is like we're probably quite lucky in that we can experience grass whenever really we want. But there's a lot of places in the world that are living in, or places that people are living in boxes where it's very difficult to get a natural environment. So having a space like that where there's no bad guy, it's just a forest that you can go and explore and get away and sort of have some kind of escape from reality, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That does seem to be a big part of the vision. And hearing you describe it earlier is just your players want that. Someone saying, or multiple people saying, I just kind of want to hang out in the cabin a bit. That kind of relaxed play is, there's an appeal.
But you see it with Fortnite as well. Kids hang out in Fortnite as a social space rather than a game, right? I mean, there's a lot of game modes that are coming out of Roblox and stuff that are just social spaces or meme engines or whatever, that they're there to hang out with friends and do some shit along the way, but really it's more a social space in 3D like we had in 2D on the internet.
We had this effect in the game Onward that I worked on, which is like a tactical shooter in VR, essentially. And we had roleplay servers where people would just go and kind of hang out on the range and do a little roleplay or just chat. And in VR, of course, it's all the more immersive in the ways that VR is immersive, at least. And it's kind of surprising to see that in games that are normally supposed to be adversarial multiplayer or co-op multiplayer or whatever.
Well, look at Arma, like the life game modes that you see now in GTA and that no pixel have basically, you know, part. Yeah. So like, but that came from Arma. Like it was like Arma Life, and there was like Stratus Life and Altus Life and stuff, and they were hated by the Arma mod community because they were, you know, doing civilian shit like fucking role playing as drug dealers and stuff.
ATV and shit.
Military, but. But people would play that. I remember Lyric playing that game mode at like 10 FPS because the servers were so clunky, and he would still play it because the experience was there. And it's kind of given rise to this. And you see, roleplay is like, if the game supports roleplay, there is a community out there that will leap on it and play it. So I think people are just crying out for these social spaces where they can be who they want to be and project whatever they want to and hang out with friends.
I mean, that's a big part of. Oh, go ahead, Jay. Yeah.
I have a small example of this. I play a lot of MMOs. I'm a big MMO player, and I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14 recently. And there's a huge role-playing community in Final Fantasy 14. But I don't do it myself. But I respect it. I see some people RPing. Cool, you do you. You get your bread. That's fine. But I had like cross-pollination. I was doing a dungeon where I was healing the dungeon. And these two people in the dungeon were like flirting in messages. And then after every boss, they would take a break to RP kiss and then carry on. And one of them was the tank, so I couldn't do anything about it. I had to stand there and watch them RP kiss, and then they would move on.
Or the dungeon, clearing your throat. Guys, we should really get a move on.
It was crazy. And I was just like, hey, this is where they get their fun. They like to RP kiss after they've killed a boss. More power to them. And the game has those systems, right? And I joke about the kissing, but a lot of MMOs have, like, look at World of Warcraft, for example. It has pet battling. It has pet capturing. It effectively has Pokemon inside it. And I know I have friends who do not engage with any of the leveling, do not engage with anything but the pet battling, because that's what they enjoy. Or like fishing, or any of the other hundreds of systems they have. It's like they just want to do that and create that for them, right?
Oh, surely you can.
We have been asked to add fishing. No, exactly. Right. Like we have rivers, and actually, when we were experimenting with the guided generation with the river schematics, we just put in 5 circles to see if that would generate. I think I tweeted out the image at one stage, but then our creative director was like, "Oh, we can do lakes now." Instead of just rivers, we can do lakes, and I was like, "Well." Boats, right? You need boats if we have lakes. So, and then of course you need fishing, because if you have boats, you need. So there's all this possibility, and as I said, people are just scream out for something to do by themselves, have that moment of escape, right? And just peace and quiet.
And that's.
Yeah, I have to ask, how did the kissing work in a role play sense? Was it just text/me?
Stand close to
Yeah,
each
they
other.
would just
and-
like slash kissing, and then they do.
just
I don't
put
know
their
what emote
avatars
they were
next to each
using,
other.
but like their emote would
Okay.
like push them forward. I don't RP. I'm not like an emote dude. But like, pardon the
Yeah, go ahead.
you know, pardon the pun, but like adding some level of fishing, like I like the concept of like what you're doing. I really like it. I think it's like super ambitious, and I think like if you guys pull this off, it's gonna really take off and snowball. But like there's a hook for millions of different players, and fishing is one for me. Like I'm interested in the game, and then if you went there's fishing, I'm in, right? Like I would love a game where I could sim, build a cabin, go to the lake, get some fish, and it's not even like, oh, I have to capture all the fish and that is the gamified goal. It's like I'm capturing fish to survive, right? Like that's the thing. And like, oh no, the fish didn't bite today. Uh-oh, I have to now venture out in the dark and do stuff. Like,
Look,
that's
we've all
awesome.
watched Alone. Like we've all watched Alone, I think. I hope, and that's what this game allows you to do, which is you can play alone and not die in real life, right? Like because I've died. Like when I played Prologue for the first time, I died. So now I'm pretty good. I pretty much a 90% survival rate because I take my time. But early on, I just ran and died a lot. But it's like I want to. We have like rivers freezing over and stuff like that, so that could lead in very well to your survival. That if you don't catch enough fish and then the rivers freeze over, well, then what are you going to do? So it's
that's
that's
one
sort of
system as well.
yes, right. Just give us some time.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like, and I think with a lot of the players who have played it or are thinking about it, when you go into this experience, your feedback is going to be helping build what this will become over the next few days. And like speaking of that, before I ask you, because I have a question to wrap things up, we do have a donation from S6 is my handle, gives $5 It says, hi all, for Brennan. I'm a terrible FPS player, and in all my hours of public, I never got a chicken dinner, but love the game. Can you get me one? I don't think you cannot present you one. So
I don't work for the company anymore, so I have no secret button. I can just go, there we go, there's a chicken dinner.
Maybe they literally just want like a frozen chicken dinner mailed to them.
Oh, I could post them one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you can post them one. Yeah.
In the post, frozen.
It would defrost and be like gone off by the time
it'll be good. It'll be fine.
Send it from where you are to Australia. Close. I'm sure it will stay fine.
Oh no, it's Australia. Yeah, that's not
go rotten.
It's not going to work.
No, S6, you can't have a chicken dinner. Yeah, I think one of the things I would like, and Mikey, unless you've got anything else.
There's that one question from our Discord before.
Oh, yeah.
Asked or actually it's two. Should I go through those now?
Yeah, go through those, yeah.
Sure. Let me go here and pull that up here. So, this is from Godphase on our Discord. Question for Brendan. Arma, PUBG, and Prologue go way back, all have in common that they feature long periods spent just walking through relatively realistic-sized environments. Is there something about realistic large spaces and very long walks through them that particularly interests or inspires you? Maybe it calls back to your orienteering background as a kid.
I like walks. I like exploring, and I think this is kind of. It's also the immersive nature of these kind of worlds. Having that kind of locomotion in this kind of bigger space, it gives you a more immersive experience. And I think, I said, I enjoy. The escape and being able to just go for a hike every morning. So I'm not sure why I like it, but I like it in real life. So I guess that's why I like it in the game. But it's more that, like, so the reason we're doing a survival loop in Prologue was because, or go way back, should I say, because I thought that was the easiest way to test if you can make a new map every time you play. What's the easiest way to test that? And I thought, well, just put a survival loop back and forth. It's not that I love that, but I'm going back to my roots. It's what made me fall back in love with gaming. So I thought, I like emergent survival. Let's make it a loop. But it's a challenging walkthrough for us. But yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there was a fit basically between, well, I want this generative world.
It just made sense in my head.
And I like survival. Yeah. And it does make sense. I mean, it works very well.
Because especially the type of survival I like, which is emergent, it just lends itself well to generative worlds because they are systemic systems. These are systems you can just roll out as a set of rules to the world that plug into it, and then it gives you this space to choose your own adventure, essentially.
Got you. Okay, and I got a few more here. Also from Godphase, P.S. As a current open beta tester for Prologue Go Way Back, it's got a great tension between the need to keep moving and the danger of being hit by cold and rainy weather out in the open. Looking forward to seeing how the systemic aspects are expanded upon in the future.
Oh, thank you very much.
Well, not a question, but just there.
Just words of encouragement. It's good.
So other question, a couple here from A Slow Bear. What are your thoughts on the monster that you have created, referring to PUBG? So many imitations have come and gone, but only a few have successfully duplicated your PUBG success. What do you think of the landscape of the Battle Royale genre, littered with the proverbial corpses of your imitators over the near decade?
Oh, God.
Not trying to sound like a drama teacher, they add.
Is it bad that I don't pay that much attention to what happens in the Battle Royale space? Like, I mean, I'm kind of focused on building what I'm building, and I don't even play a lot of games myself. I play a lot of Battlefield 1 because I just like the flow of that game.
Yes, dude.
Yeah, I played a bit of Battlefield 6, and now I play Battlefield 1 again. But anyway, the maps are just too small. I was
Dude, we did a stream on 6, and that's the
Yeah.
exact same thing we said. The maps are too
Jay and I
small.
have been playing a good deal of BF6. I really like it overall. Like, I think it's a great game. I think ultimately it is kind of just Battlefield 4, but modernized, and that's good, but it's not like innovative, and the maps are smaller. Like, that's the player cosmetics overall, not a fan. The faction characterization and aesthetics and cosmetics I don't like, and the maps are too small. Those are like my big ones that I'm not a fan of, but yeah.
I also suffered through the campaign. Get back on
BF6
on
campaign,
mission,
did you say?
soldier. Like BF6 campaign. Ooh,
I couldn't
hours,
get
I'm
through the
not
first
getting
mission.
back.
I turned it off. I was like,
I got a
no.
little. I really felt it when, like, all of your this is a minor spoiler for the beginning of the first mission. When everybody died on the American flag, I feel like I knew what I was getting into. It was a little.
No, but they were just trying to replicate the Battlefield 1 of that, like, there's no way out, you're going to die. And it just seemed a bit contrived this time. It wasn't as meaningful as the World War I one, right? I
the
mean,
Battlefield
for
1
me-
story is so good.
The big one for me was, wait, actually, let me ask this first. Battlefield 1 was more episodic, right? Because I didn't play the
It
single
was,
player.
different stories. Yeah,
Okay.
there was a tank one, there was a pilot one.
And that's great.
In Egypt. Yeah.
That fits so well because Battlefield is about war, and there are many little stories of war, and it's about big wars. Battlefield 6, the single player, just felt so implausible, man. Like, I had so many questions. Like, how did this private company create security guarantees for so much of the world and then invade New York City? Like, it was just too wild and silly for me. You know what I wish they did? I wish that they just went fucking Command and Conquer with it. What if they weren't a private military corporation? What if they were cultists? And they found some sort of weird resource like Tiberium, and that's how they got their power.
I was going to say, isn't that the Call of Duty campaign?
Basically. Yeah.
Which one?
That's
Which
what they were trying to
The
emulate.
newest
But like
Black
also
Ops 7 is all very strange
I see.
and occulty and shit.
the smaller
you should look
maps
at
as
some
well,
of the
the
videos.
multiplayer. They're trying to they are, and I get it, but they are trying to take a slice of the Call of Duty pie and be like, oh look, you guys can come play here. It's gonna be, isn't it great? But a lot of the I'd like to consider myself and Mikey like OG Battlefield players. We immediately noticed the map size. We were just like, what? Like, especially in the beta, it was like these are tiny, absolutely tiny. And there's some that are better, but
there's another piece to this. I want to continue this tangent because this is a fun one, and I've been meaning to talk about it. In Battlefield 1942 and Battlefield 2, I think everything before Bad Company 1, the guns being worse and the cone of fire being more dramatic made your life more meaningful, and it made the map seem bigger because you had to close with a person to actually engage them and fight them. Nowadays, Battlefield 6 and New Battlefield, just most FPS, even tactical ones, you could kill people real fast and real accurately, which is fine and realistic, but you do get this effect where a small map feels even more cramped because, you know, the space that you're moving is, well, you're not going to be alive for very long to enjoy the space, and you're cramped in there.
Well, that's it. I also noticed like the recoil in Battlefield 6 is almost non-existent. It just feels very light. It doesn't feel chunky that you're pulling down the gun, right? It's
Yeah. And Jay and I were talking all day about the the AK-205, and we're like, why should we use anything else? Look how
It's a
accurate
laser
it is.
beam. It's a laser.
At least at long range, yeah. I got more partial to the cord eventually, but anyway, that's the Battlefield tangent. Where was I?
Yeah.
There was so the other bonus question here of the Battle Royale spin-offs that died. Which had a concept? We talked about this a little bit earlier. Which had a concept that you personally thought was really cool. There's a wrestling battle royale. There's the magic one, which I think was the one you mentioned, right? Spellbreak.
Yeah, I think it was called Spellbreak. I think, but again, I always wish to see something like I said it many times, like a For Honor battle royale. This kind of like just myth and magic, or kind of medieval. Hey, Kingdom Come to battle royale. Right? I mean,
I love Kingdom Come, man. That would be bad. It would really suck to be like sworn by a bunch of guys with long swords. Like, there's not a lot of like protecting yourself you could do, and you get kind of zerged. But I'd want to see it tried at the same time, because
there'd need to be lots of layers of armor, and then you'd have to have like ease of mobility and stuff. So yeah, it wouldn't be super. But again, I look at I look at For Honor and think that would be great battle royale.
It makes the 1v1 more dramatic
so good.
And prolonged, and with proximity chat, and like it's you and this one other person in that shrinking circle, and you both got your swords up. That fight lasts longer and is more intimate than just like two guys from this many meters away popping out shooting. each other.
Also, the For Honor is obviously built for 1v1 fights, but in a lot of their game modes, you can fight multiple opponents, and you gain buffs based on how many opponents you're fighting, and like you can get into like these modes. The idea of like also finding your equipment in the environment, like busting into a hut and being like, oh my god, a full set of knight armor, like, and then you see someone climbing up a hill and you're like, oh my god, it's a knight. We do not want to go over there. Like, that's so cool. And like, that would be really fun. I'm fully sold on a For Honor. It's one of my most played games on Steam.
I'm
Ubisoft,
sold on give me a call.
Oh, that'd be so good.
There you go. Or the Kingdom Come devs. I would definitely play that. I've been playing a lot of Kingdom Come 2 lately. It's awesome. I'm super into it.
What a game. All right.
Okay, so those are all the questions from Discord.
Question.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. I guess how I'd like to wrap this up, unless, Brendan, you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, thanks for stopping in and listening, and thanks for anyone who helped test us out the beta. That was really
that
good.
Is
if
exactly
you want to try
what
it
I
out,
wanted to ask. Is if people do want to give valuable feedback, what are the best things they can do to do that?
we come join our Discord or jump on Steam and leave us a post on the forums. We read both. We're not picky. We also are releasing a demo for the early access build in a few days, or maybe next week. We're just tying up some knots. It was overriding the early access build save files, so we had to do some stuff.
Okay.
But we're basically giving all 3 game modes on like 4 maps. And that's it. So, but you can come try the game before you buy it if you want to, and even just try the game and leave us some feedback before you buy. Yeah, everything's welcome.
I have a comment I want to compliment you, Brendan. I also want to ask a question I meant to ask earlier. Good on you guys for going through the Steam discussions boards and like not being afraid to look on multiple places. I do like contracted consulting now as part of my dev job, and a lot of teams will just straight up not go to the Steam discussions boards because they find it too toxic sometimes. And the thing I always advise and say is like, look, you kind of just have to deal with it, because even though there's that toxicity, or maybe just that person who might not be as familiar with the game as they should be to give the feedback, you have to digest it, right? You have to look through it, and it can be taxing. So good on 100% your team for doing that. Yeah.
No, and that was one of the things coming into early access, was that we went out of our Discord bubble. Because people in Discord were generally, there's some really good feedback there, but they're generally complimentary towards the game and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Then releasing it to early access, like one thing I'm super proud of, when we released last week, we were like 55% on Steam, and now we're up to, I think, 70% if you look at all languages. And that's like, I mean, in 1 week, 15% and trending up. So I'm, very happy with seeing, and that comes from us being on the Steam forums, replying to like common queries and concerns and stuff like that, and people are seeing, okay, they're making an effort, and it's important.
That's
so don't be afraid.
The opposite too, man. like usually we get real high with the honeymoon and then we come down. That you're reversing that trend is really good news.
Hey,
I think it's because people are becoming educated on like what you guys are trying to do, because it is very unique. Like the release schedule and what you're planning to do like hasn't really been done before. So it is going to take some time for people to understand what the plan is, right? If people come into Prologue and go, "Oh, this isn't what I expected," it's like, well, maybe their expectations were a little bit skewed because of like how early access has been working recently and stuff like that. So,
well, people expect a certain type of game if they see survival game, and they expect a lot of missions. I did get this. There's a review from a Japanese person on our Steam, and it's wonderful. It's like a hard game for some, not others. You're suddenly respawned in a hut, and the game begins with no explanation, and then it just goes down. Is like. When you die, the path you walked is displayed on the map. This result screen lets you feel happy or sad about making a mistake here or there, and the map also shows buildings that weren't visible on the map you were playing, providing small hints for the next time. It's just a lovely review. It tells exactly what the game is expecting. It's like, yeah, it's not for everyone, but I quite like it.
There you go.
And that will only get better and better, and those types of reviews will grow based on the stuff you're planning to add, right? Because there's so many more hooks for the different types of players, right? And that will just expand, and then even more so into the second and third. And it's I can definitely see
we want to be an open platform, right? Like we want to be as open with the community and let them leverage the tools we're building. Because that's the other thing. Instead of us designing the ways people interact with the world, we'll essentially give you a bunch of tool sets that allow you to create those interactions yourself. So it's like the internet, right? We're not going to specify what you do in your own website or what you do. Like it's managed by the community rather than managed by us. And that's the hope with the platform, that the community will end up doing most of the work in monitoring and managing themselves rather than us having to be the police state.
Yes, you just need to make that foundation and then let them run wild, which will be really, really cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Here's that quick question. Sorry, Jay, there was one more you want to get to. Can you talk about the naming that you did, not just for this project, but for
we did have that question, yeah.
Because that was something that struck us a bit. We were like, wait, why Prologue? Why go way back? It didn't feel like descriptive, but it also felt mysterious and evocative. So what was the rationale there?
Okay. So Prologue is the start of the story. So it's like the first game is Prologue Go Way Back. The second game may be called Prologue something else. And then the third game will be PlayerUnknown's whatever. Because I don't want to use my name so much. People will still call PlayerUnknown's next game. And really these first two games are kind of stepping stones to get to the third game and kind of the prologue of our story, which will be told fully within the third game. So it's more than that. And it also allows me to call it Go Way Back. Because I think if I called it Go Way Back by itself, it'd be very hard to trademark. And also, Go Way Back is my failed attempt at an ARG, because when I first released the trailer for Prologue way back at the Games Awards in 2019, I had put Morse code in the bottom of our Twitter image saying "Go Way Back," and then I even tweeted out a few weeks after we launched Christmas or New Year's a paragraph that basically, if you took the first letter of every sentence, it spelled "Go Way Back." Yeah. And if you went to if you put Go Way Back into Google at that stage, it would just give you the Wayback Machine. And then if you looked up our Twitter on the Wayback Machine, you'd get a bunch of early images of the game and the very first terrain we generated.
Oh, that's
and
fun.
Then I had deleted all that before we went live. No one figured it out. Like no one figured it out. So yeah. So then I called the game Go Way Back because it just fits into the world we're building as well. And I thought, well, isn't that just a nice tag to a failed ARG I did?
That makes sense. And you make a very good point that I hadn't considered, and that we often don't consider. When it comes to naming things, there's a lot of shit that's already been named that before. That being whatever the idea is in your head. So I feel like there might be an increase in the coming years of colon and hyphenated game names, because people are going to need to be combining phrases.
Well, this is I do happen to have PlayerUnknown, so that's useful. I can call PlayerUnknown something, but I just didn't feel like PlayerUnknown's Go Way Back. I don't know. It just didn't sound right to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
Well, that's good.
expectations and all that. It's super unique what you guys are doing. I really admire it.
Oh, thank you.
I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's all going to evolve over the years to come. And like even just in like the short time with this one, like the progress you guys are making is super impressive. And so everyone make sure you go check out the game in early access and also join the Discord if you want to give some valuable feedback, or on the Steam community forums, to actually have your voice heard, to kind of have a say in what's going to be happening with this incredibly ambitious project. I want to say, Brendan, thank you so much for joining us. Oh, yeah.
Don't forget to bring your teddy to the weather tower to get that sweet achievement.
Critical.
Right.
Yes, and don't leave it too close to the fire or it'll burn. I was drying it out earlier, and I left it too close to the fire. Went off and did something, came back.
Burn them.
Oh, it was just too close. It wasn't actually on the fire. It was just next door, but because this heat system is systemic, it got hot enough that it just set on fire. And I came back. I posted on my Twitter just at the teddy burning right beside the fire. It was
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because now I'm remembering when Jay. I was playing and I was streaming to Jay and to Tina. And that moment for me when I was like, oh, I get it, this is a systemic game, was when I had dried my socks by the fireplace. I was like, okay, I assume this is going to work because of yes, it worked. Okay, I think I get it.
Well, one of our FAQ questions is like, my matches got wet in the rain, now they don't work. And the answer is, what do you think would happen? It just...
And that's just how it should be in games like this. Is just you think,
figure it out, right?
That is what happens for sure.
It's like that lovely comparison I saw on Reddit once between Call of Duty and PUBG. Call of Duty makes you the newest player feel like Rambo. PUBG just says "fuck you, get better," and that's the kind of game I like making, which is just figure it out. Like it's not that hard. I grew up with games that you had to figure out. I remember like even some of the early Tomb Raider games were like super difficult puzzles and stuff that you had to kind of figure out. Portal, for example, right? Like I mean, they made you work for getting your nice hit, right? So this is the same with this kind of game. I want it to be hard. If you think you'll beat it the first time, good luck.
Yeah, that's a good. I like Tomb Raider because Tomb Raider has a sort of like realistic scale of danger. Like, oh my god, an alligator is as scary as it would be to encounter an alligator, as opposed to Call of Duty, the ultimate power fantasy. I don't care how many platoons of bad guys are thrown at me. I will just click on all their heads and they'll be gone.
Also, just moving in Tomb Raider is in the originals is a challenge. Like just navigating your environment. So I totally get that one.
Pre-standardized controls were better for survival-like experiences, I suppose, right? Like Resident Evil, of course.
Resi, Silent Hill. There's I made an entire episode on like why having the in the remake of Silent Hill 2, completely changing the camera angles kind of fucks with the horror and the survival nature of those games, because giving the player more control takes away from that kind of that fear.
Did you we were talking about game jams earlier. One of my favorite game jam games does this in a genre that needs it, I think. Did you guys play Receiver or Receiver 2 by Wolfire? They did Lugaroo and Receiver it was a 7-day game jam game where basically it was all about getting in depth with weapon mechanics. So instead of guns being really, really good, like I was saying with post Battlefield 2 Battlefield, guns were complex, weird little machines. Yeah. You press the E button to eject the magazine. You press the tilde button to put the gun in your belt. But be sure you hold the button down or you'll shoot yourself in the thigh and die, or at least get hurt. And then also put rounds in individually with each magazine, and you have 4 different magazines. And introducing that sort of, not just the scarcity, but the complexity of the interactions and having to learn new controls made the combat, made the conflict all the more dramatic and interesting. And you don't really get that with how good we've gotten in design of making, good camera, good controls, good character, etc.
Yeah, seamless. Yeah, for sure. The adversity, the friction is what creates interesting gameplay moments. Sea of Thieves is extremely good at creating friction in all aspects of its design to create those moments, like the ocean being one of them, how the ships control, how you need multiple people. It's what can take something that would be quite simple, go from point A to point B to dig something up. It's the friction you experience. And you've got it with Go Way Back as well. There's friction between your two goals, and that's what makes those moments. It's fun. All right, I was just looking at Receiver. That looks fun.
Yeah. Look
All
up Baby
right,
Steps
beautiful.
too. That's another good. By the guy who did Quap.
Oh yeah,
Similar
that's all
principle.
about co-op and baby steps. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna have a scan of the chat.
Yeah. Do we miss
All right.
anything? I don't think. We think we're
Don't
good.
think so. I think we're all good. Right. So we've been going for an hour and 42 minutes. Brendan, it's been so wonderful to have you on to hear not just the story of your journey, but also your very ambitious next project. And I just want to say thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me. This has been a great chat. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome, yeah. And thank you to everyone in chat, everyone who's donated, everyone who's posted your questions. We really appreciate you. And just to remind you guys that everything here is supported by you guys over on Patreon and through YouTube memberships. So if you want to see more stuff like this, more awesome guests like Brennan, for me, Mikey, and Tina, who I'm sure is watching us from her bed. Hello, Tina. We'll
Hi, Tina.
We'll speak to you soon, Tina. Thank you so much for joining us all, and thank you to our podcast producer Eric in the back and Mikey as always. And from me and the rest of the team, bye bye, guys.
Bye
See you
bye.
later.